Mayor Brandon Johnson faces more questions about leadership at CPS. And the murder of a college student on Chicago's North Side renews debate over the city's immigration policies. Tonight, former Johnson political foe Paul Vallas gets to the point.
From Chicago's very own, with WGN political editor Tahman Bradley, this is The Point.
Good evening. Glad you're with us on a Monday night. Critics of Chicago's welcoming city ordinance are urging change tonight after a Venezuelan migrant was charged in last week's killing of Sheridan Gorman, an 18-year-old Loyola Chicago student.
Her life was taken because of choices made here in this city, here in this state. Choices that we have tried to correct numerous times by saying in a very common sense way that when you have individuals who choose to engage in dangerous criminal behavior here in this country, if they are non-citizens, we should not give them welcome. We should not give them sanctuary. We should not give them cover.
No word yet from Mayor Johnson on the case. It's just one of the issues facing City Hall as questions remain about Chicago's shaky financial position and a school system without a permanent leader. Paul Vallas is a former candidate for Chicago mayor and policy advisor to conservative think tank, the Illinois Policy Institute. Welcome to The Point, Paul.
Well, thanks for having me.
So good to have you here.
Yeah, great to be back.
Let's dig into the CPS CEO search because that is underway. One of the three finalists announced earlier this month withdrew her name from consideration. Maisha Porter, a former New York City schools chief, is no longer being considered. That leaves former East Baton Rouge Parish Public Schools Superintendent Cito Narcis and the interim CEO, Macquillan King. The job has been vacant since last June. So, Paul, what kind of CEO do you think the district needs?
Well, look, I think King is a quality candidate, far superior to the individual from Baton Rouge, who I am familiar with.
She comes from the Johnson administration.
Yeah, exactly. But she is, I think she's competent. The key is having an elected school board that's not going to be beholden to the Chicago Teachers Union. That's going to support her, because she has demonstrated in the last budget that she's willing to stand up and take a tough stand. Sometimes a stand contrary to both what Johnson wants to do in the Chicago Teachers Union. So these school board elections are going to tell the tale. But I think of the two remaining candidates, clearly she's heads above her competitor from Louisiana, I believe, from Baton Rouge.
That's right, yeah. Board members have signed non-disclosure agreements. So we don't know a lot about the process and what's going on with this. So you think that's good?
No,
does that help?
It should be openly transparent. Look, the search firm that they had hired actually decided to quit and go south, in part because they did not like the heavy interference in the search process. So I think they've really poisoned the search process. I felt, despite the fact that I think King is a quality CEO, I had felt, and I had posted a while ago, that she should be retained until the new school board is elected, and then let the new school board, because all 21 seats, including the school board president, is all going to be up in the next election.
Yeah, let me ask you about that, because what impact does that have? All right, so they'll find someone, name someone now, then you get a new school board, and that wasn't, this person won't be picked by the new school board, so you're saying wait.
Exactly. Well, what are they going to do? Give that person a 5-year contract? What if that new school board doesn't like the person that they selected? The Chicago Teachers Union dominates that school board, and they want a school board that's going to prioritize their interests at the expense of the interests of the children. And obviously, we could talk for hours about that.
Yeah, and there will no doubt be elections. And speaking of that, do you think that the Urban Center or the Illinois Network of Charters will run candidates?
Yeah, I'm sure that they're looking for candidates. Let me point out that I believe in 9 of the contested first round of school board seats, the teachers union candidates only prevailed in 2 of them. So at the end of the day, they took a beating. And let me point out that in this most recent election, kind of a postmortem on the election, the Chicago Teachers Union, of the 13 candidates that they supported, that they financially supported, 7 actually lost. And of course, they opposed Eileen Burke in that election, and they supported the real estate transfer tax referendum that went down. So,
they don't win every election.
Yeah, exactly. They've had a series of setbacks.
Let's dig into CPS finances, and I want to show up on the screen an op-ed that you wrote last summer in Crain's, last July. In fact, you said the fact remains that the CPS budget is becoming increasingly intertwined with the city budget, and that the CTU leadership considers the city virtually an ATM machine. It is imperative that the City Council examine schools' budget and its spending priorities. The City Council would do well to look at balancing its budget and addressing the city's long-term financial needs by bringing accountability to the school's budget and moving to end end the city's massive school district subsidies. So make the case for cutting the school budget. How do you get leaders and the stakeholders at CPS to cut the budget?
Well, let me point out that, when I was CEO for Daley in the first term, long before the parking meter controversies and things like that, when we were balancing budgets and we weren't selling city assets, we balanced 6 budgets. We improved schools. We expanded school choice. We actually saw a close to 40,000 increase in our enrollment, and we didn't receive a dime in subsidy from the city. So the city was able to use its resources to balance its own budget. This last year, as you know, the city gave the schools another $1.3 billion, including $550 million in TIF money.
But isn't this money from debt and the stress from making the pension payment that the reason why the city has to step in and contribute more?
Well, not with the school. Well, first of all, they created special levy. When we were there, the pensions were 100% funded. But in the ensuing years, obviously they underfunded and they took pension holidays. But the school district has a special levy. It's a special property tax levy. So combined with that special levy and what the state provides, their pensions are taken care of, unlike the city that has to raise money to pay for its own pensions every year. So at the end of the day, when you talk about the school district having a unbalanced budget, it's not because they're making pension payments. That has nothing to do with it. They're unbalanced because of all the money that they get, and they get $32,000 a kid, of all the money that they get, only about 54% of that money finds its way into the local schools. And almost 20% of the school district's employees are not even in the schools. They're either in central or regional offices that are providing these like citywide programs and services.
I know they cut the central office in the last budget.
Yeah, but not significantly. They added 9,000 employees using COVID money since 2019, while the schools were closed for 78 consecutive weeks. And there's one employee in the Chicago Public Schools for every 7.5 kids, including 22,000 non-teaching employees.
Well, we have you. You were a candidate for mayor running on a law and order public safety platform. So I wanted to ask you about the murder of an 18-year-old Loyola student, Sheridan Gorman. She was shot shortly after 1 a.m. last Thursday on Loyola Beach Pier. A 25-year-old Venezuelan migrant has been charged. According to DHS, the suspect was apprehended by Border Patrol in 2023 and then released. There was a warrant out for him after he failed to appear for court on a misdemeanor charge of shoplifting. People are saying all kinds of things about this incident. Paul, what public policy is needed to prevent a killing like this?
Well, look, first of all, you have to enforce immigration laws. And look, I mean, clearly, there's a lot of blame to go around. But the bottom line is, I believe if the city would have sat down with the federal government and said, we're going to prioritize getting dangerous criminals, getting these habitual offenders, getting these individuals who have criminal records.
I mean, shoplifting is not a habitual.
But still, I mean, at the end of the day, if you're in the country illegally, you're in the country illegally. And if you've broken the law, you've broken the law while being in the country illegally.
But what can the city do about those individuals that cross the border illegally?
Well, I think what the city can first do is, rather than having open confrontation, they should be working in concert. So that's number one. Number two, we have a larger problem, much larger problem than this, and I've posted on this. We have a problem in that, despite the best efforts by Eileen O'Neill Burke, the new Cook County State's Attorney, the system is weighted in favor of hardcore criminals. Let me give you an example. CWB has now reported that since 2020, 467 individuals who have been arrested for murder and attempted murder were out on bail awaiting trial for other violent crimes. And when you consider that only reflects a fraction of the crimes committed, because the arrest rates are abysmal, that 467 number is closer to 2,000. So, when you have 20% of violent crimes being committed by individuals who are out on bail awaiting trial for other felonies, you have a real problem here. And not a day goes by, we don't see the story, we don't see the CWB story where they document someone who had multiple arrests and they're out there and they're attacking people on the CTA and elsewhere. I mean, they have not gotten serious about prioritizing getting violent criminals off the street, whether they're immigrants or illegal immigrants, or for that matter, or residents or people who are just visiting the city. They're simply not prioritizing it.
Well, we should note that crime is down, violent crime is down in the city and in the county. While I have you, before I let you go, a
Yeah.
lot of people are thinking about running for mayor.
Yeah, a lot of them.
Is that on your mind? Might we say come back?
No, well, look, you never say never, but right now what we're trying to do is we're really trying to find a candidate that's...
Who's we? You got my interest now.
Well, the Urban Center. And as you know, post-election, we've created the Urban Center to look for candidates to run for the school board, to challenge the Chicago Teachers Union, to look for candidates to challenge some of these aldermen who seem more interested in international issues than there are local issues and matters in their own ward. So what we've been doing is we've been talking to a lot of candidates. We not only need to find a candidate who has the skills to run the city, but the candidate who has the courage to run the city. And so what we've been doing is we've been interviewing a number of the candidates, and some will want our endorsement, some will not want our endorsement, but at the end of the day, it's really important to find a candidate that's just like, it can't be just anybody but Brandon Johnson, because if you're going to take that approach, you may very well, your candidate may very well lose.
Paul Vallas, good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. And we are back in 60 seconds. Governor Pritzker's national tour took him to Washington in one of the most exclusive events, the Gridiron Dinner. Tonight, we tip our hat to Governor Pritzker or his speechwriters or whoever gave him his material. The candidate for re-election and likely future presidential hopeful is said to have made a quip about his weight loss, saying, "I'm the gov who put gov in Wegovy." And that is the point. I'm Tahman Bradley. Michael Mateer is back with more news at 9 o'clock. Don't forget about the forecasters up next on WGN+. Good night.